Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TFTPod podcast. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos, and it is episode 9. And we're doing this for nearly hitting double digits, which is insane. Obviously, before we start, I implore you all to subscribe on YouTube, like the podcast, like the clips on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, the whole lot, at TFTPod, or at TFTPod podcast even. And then Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, the whole 9 yards. It would be very much appreciated as always, and I hope you're all doing well in this ever growing tumultuous times that we're living in. Shit really hit the fan this week, to put it bluntly, but hopefully this can be a 45-minute distraction, speaking about something which in the grand scheme of things means a whole bunch of nothing, but for us, let's just pretend that it means a lot. Of course, there's a lot of football to get through. I'll try and keep this abridged, or else we'd be for 3.5 hours, and you don't want that. So, obviously, we've got some A-League, Premier League happened as well. There was a League Cup final to speak about, which I'm still grieving over, but we'll touch on that. There was a big managerial dismissal. There was some administration issues regarding my club, which we'll touch on. Obviously, Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga, League One, the whole 9 yards. In that sense, the Champions League continued, and we had another round of fixtures as well as the Europa League, which the round of the 32 has now come and gone. So we'll see who advanced from there. Obviously, who went into footed, and the preview of the week's football. Now we'll start how we always start. It's becoming a real theme. We'll start down under, and we'll start with before I start, recording this on a Monday and uploading it on a Tuesday really doesn't. It's really not kind for me in regards to the A-League fixtures, because what I'm about to speak about. Obviously, it's the Melbourne City 3, Central Coast Mariners 2. That no one cares about that anymore. Yet I still have to talk about it because of the way that I've structured this. But we'll keep this brief because I think everyone who would like to know what happened in that game would have already found out. Obviously, Melbourne City won, but there were two major talking points coming out of that game. Of course, they were VAR talking points. So the first one was a penalty was given to Melbourne City about in stoppage at a time of the first half, at about the 43rd minute, right? It was about 4 metres outside of the box, and I'm estimating here, right? It could be more, could be less, but it was about 4 metres outside the box. And for whatever reason, on initial view, the referee gives it a penalty, which I don't agree with, but I kind of understand that, yes, referees make mistakes, that's fine, they're human, like they're not robots, then whatever. But they go to VAR, and as soon as they go to VAR, you're thinking, alright, okay, it's going to be overturned, free kick. But no, but again, for whatever reason, the referee, despite looking at VAR for about 4 minutes, it wasn't that long, but it was a long time he looked at VAR for, still said penalty, and that baffles me. And not only does that baffle me, but the decision after that baffles me as well. And for those who don't know, in the last minute, or like the 89th minute of that game, it was 3-2. A Central Coast Mariners player goes down to the box over a tackle from Matthew Leckie. On first view, I thought penalty, but I think a lot of things are penalties, so I was kind of holding my judgment until I saw a replay. Saw a replay and thought, okay, clear penalty. Central Coast are probably going to score, and it's going to end 3-3. Referee on field doesn't give it a penalty, which is fine, fair enough. And then he goes to VAR. Now, this is the major problem with we need to figure out what we have a problem with as a fan base of a sport. Because if we have a problem, you have two sides of the camp. One of it is there's a problem with VAR. That I agree with more than having a problem with referees. but I don't necessarily agree with it. And then you have the whole, let's blame referees. Or the referees are the problem. Now, if you think VAR is a problem, and if I had to be in either camp, I would be in this one, which I think VAR is a problem, is because VAR is there to overturn decisions. That's what it's there for. It's not there to uphold decisions, because it wouldn't need to be used if the decision was going to be upheld. Because why review it if you got it right? For it not to be for it to go to VAR, there needs to be some major doubt over the decision. So immediately red flags. If I was a referee, I'm thinking, fuck, I probably got this wrong, right? Not only that, you then are allowing the referee to look at a decision for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, an hour. They can look at it as long as they want. We'll average it out at about, say, like 4 minutes is an extreme, and then the more often than not, about 30 seconds to a minute, right? Which is still a long time, in my opinion, but we can't win them all. So you're allowing the referees to do that, and yet somehow they aren't. The decisions aren't being overturned. And we'll touch on a VAR controversy that happened in the League Cup, and we'll probably have to speak about that League Cup game for about 4 hours because, anyway, we'll get onto that later. But for that decision not to be overturned, that penalty one, and everyone has probably already seen it, but if you haven't, go and seek it out. It was just it's beyond the point of anger. It's just frustrating at this point, because it's like, how many times do we want to get it wrong, and how many times does this be the major talking point coming out of a game, instead of it being 3-2 at home for like a really good win for Melbourne City? We're talking about VAR. I feel like this isn't the first, and it won't be the last time we speak about that in this podcast, but we'll move on. We'll quickly skim through the A-League games because we've got a lot to speak about. Western United beat Sydney 1-0. Of course they do. They're 1-0 merchants. I've said this countless times. Newcastle beat Western Sydney 1-0. I can't remember a whole lot that happened from that game. Perth lost to Macarthur 1-0, so a lot of 1-0s. I think that all happened on the same day as well, so not great in terms of if you're neutral. Newcastle drew to Macarthur 2-2. Becca Mikatedze, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, with a very beautiful and symbolic celebration to those suffering in the Ukraine conflict at the moment, the Russian-Ukraine conflict at the moment. Beautiful tribute, and I want to shout out all the tributes that have happened this weekend. There's been about 1 million of them, which is fantastic to see, but I won't have time to speak about all of them, so I'll just quickly do an overview. Every single one of them has been pretty much perfect, and it shows that football can be a real, despite it like separating people in some sense, it can also unite a lot of people. And all thoughts go out to Ukraine and the people suffering there, because it's shit, to put it bluntly, and I wouldn't know half of how people are affected, or how people are feeling even when they're there, or if they're elsewhere and have family there. It's a shit situation, and my heart goes out to everyone. Moving on, the Adelaide 2, Central Coast 1 was the Pride game, so that's good to see some recognition for that whole thing, which is good to see. And it was an Irakunde winner in the 92nd minute, I think it was. I was going to say a steal, but I think it's a bit harsh to call it a steal, because it could have gone either way. But drama, a lot of drama in the A-League, which is good to see, because the quality is not that good, if we're going to be honest, but it's good to see drama happening. And speaking of drama, Sydney 1, Melbourne City 2, Matthew Leckie last minute winner. So he nearly cost them the win against Central Coast, and then he plucked out a very good goal to seal the deal against Sydney away from home, which was good to see. For them, they're really finding form and climbing up the table, which was expected. And then Perth beat Western United 2-0. Perth lost to Western United 2-0. Western United are painfully good because, they're just really boring but efficient, and I'm not really sure any Western United supporter cares. But, Previc up top's doing the business. Aloisi got him ticking over well. So, they've got a good shot. I think it's a lot more even than most other years. I think pretty much anyone in the top 4 by the end of the season can realistically win it. There's no outright winner like there has been for the past 4 years, pretty much, or 3 years. So moving overseas as we always do. Moving to the Premier League, and we'll start from the week downwards. Liverpool 6. Marcelo Bielsa's, at the time, Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds 0. Bielsa's second last game in charge. This game, the Leeds under Bielsa will always struggle against teams that expose space. And Liverpool, Spurs, Manchester City are the key, or Manchester City to a lesser extent, but United do it, Spurs do it, and Liverpool do it pretty much better than anyone else, and that is expose space. Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds leave as much space as any team in Europe, pretty much. So it's going to be very unlikely for Leeds to beat for Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds to beat a side like Liverpool or United or Spurs, especially Spurs on the Conte, because they're just so proficient at using pace, being quick, intricate passing into space, and then getting pretty much overloading in every sense. So if they're playing out wide, they overload. If they're playing down the middle, they overload. And that causes space in the areas that they don't occupy. Bang, one crossfield ball, one dribble through space, one drive towards the opposition box, and they're in. So the goals came in a flurry in that game. So that was a little bit bizarre, but teams that expose space hurt Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds, and that game just showed Liverpool's quality. They are really pushing City. Moving, Watford 1, Palace 4. I've just written here, Roy Hodgson isn't that good. He might keep them up. I don't think he will, though. I just think Watford are too far gone at this stage, and I don't think Roy has that tactical nous needed. Because when you're managing a side that is in the bottom 4, bottom 5, you need to have that ability to make that change with 10 minutes to go, or to make that slight tweak on a game-on-game basis to get a point against a big six, or to beat a team that's in mid-table or whatever. I don't think Roy has that, but Burnley 1, Tottenham 0. Why Tottenham's so inconsistent? For me, it's not a characteristic of an Antonio Conte side, so for me it has to come down to the players and them deciding when to give a shit. For me, an Antonio Conte side is this ruthlessly efficient, just winning machine. I think we saw it we saw it at Inter, we saw it at Chelsea in his first season more. I don't associate Antonio Conte with inconsistency in his sides, so I'm going to put it down to the players, but I'm no expert. I don't really know what's happening behind the scenes. And moving on to another North London club, Arsenal 2, Wolves 1, a last-minute winner from Andre Lacazette. Arsenal smoky for top 4, I'll put here. It's one of those ones where they're just going to creep along, and they're just going to keep going and pushing forward and winning and getting a point here and there and getting 3 points, getting a last-minute winner where they perhaps A, don't deserve it, or B, not expected to. So for me, it's between West Ham, Spurs. Well, obviously it's between West Ham, Spurs, United, and Arsenal for top 4. I don't think you can put Wolves in there, especially after the result that happened, which I'll get onto later, which happened last night. I just think they don't have that quality. I think Bruno Lage is doing a fantastic job, but if they had any chance, they needed to win this game, and they didn't. So I think Arsenal probably have a above for 50% chance of making top 4, but I don't know how far along that goes. I just know that it's above 50%. Southampton 2, Norwich 0. Norwich, that pretty much confirms them going down, which on the surface of it is not a good thing, but they've got a young spine. They've got some good youth players coming through. They've got sellable assets. They didn't spend heavy. They spent smartly, but not like they didn't go out and do what Fulham did a couple of years ago and buying 16 players, right? And with Dean Smith and Shakespeare as his deputy, or as his assistant even, it's a good managerial cohort to go down. It's probably a well-drilled enough side to come straight back up. Although the Championship is a very tough league to get out of, and it would be tough for them to come back up first time. But yeah, I'm very bullish about their hopes for the coming years. I feel like if they go down, and I think they will go down, they'll come right back up, and then that core of like your Max Aarons, your Christian Solis, your like these type of players, even your Adam Iders coming through, I think he will succeed Pookie potentially even next season. Yeah, I feel like, and they still have quality. Like Lisa Malou is not bad. Norman they have quality there, right? So yeah, I'm very bullish about Norwich's hopes for the future. Moving on, Leeds 0, Tottenham 4. This was Marcelo Bielsa's final game in charge, as we came to find out. Speak about Spurs quickly. This game was set up for Spurs because of what I mentioned about Bielsa's Leeds. Not like Bielsa's Leeds leave a lot of space. Like a lot of space, and Spurs, especially under Conte, love to exploit that space. You say Kane dropping deep, allowing Son and Kulusevski to get beyond them, getting the fullbacks up, pushing one of the double pivot forward. It just creates this numerical overload in every area that they go into, which just creates this almost imbalance of defense and attack. Because if there's a numerical overload, say on the right wing, all the defenders are attracted to there, and then bang, the space on the far side, where that means more players have to drop back, and then you end up getting Leeds to play a system that they don't want, a defensive system that they don't want, which means they're easy to pick apart because they're not used to playing in that system. So yeah, that's a Spurs thing from it. And Bielsa's Leeds, there was a sentiment around Bielsa's Leeds where his system didn't stack up in the Premier League, which I think is very harsh. He finished 9th with them last season, let's not remember. And there's a couple of things that you need to think about. There's a couple of things you need to think about when you talk about Leeds, and especially under Bielsa. Bielsa is so stubborn. I think we even if you didn't hear of him prior to him coming to Leeds, you have watched Leeds long enough in the Championship and in the Premier League to realise, yeah, he's stubborn. He does not change. And this season showed it more than anything, because Calvin Phillips and Patrick Bamford out for pretty much half the season, give or take, well, a majority of the season. Then you had Liam Cooper out, Luke Ayling out for large portions. That spine of that team, for me, is a major factor to the success of Leeds as a team, because they're so crucial to the system. Just like you saw last season, you take Van Dijk, you take Joe Gomez, you take Joel Matip out of that Liverpool defence, and you leave them with Jordan Henderson and Nat Phillips. Obviously it's different, but you know what I'm talking about. They're so crucial to that system that when you take Patrick Bamford out of that Leeds team and you take Marcelo Bielsa turned Calvin Phillips into one of the best players in Europe, like one of the best defensive midfielders in Europe. You take him out of that very average Leeds side, it's bound to go wrong at some stage. And obviously that paper-thin squad in terms of numbers, they've got I'm not sure how many players they have in the squad, but it's not many. And with the injury list that they have, can you blame that on Bielsa, saying that his high-octane, high-tempo style got to them? I would assume there's a case for it. I mean, you can't rule that out. But I saw this tweet from a Leeds fan, and I thought it was very poignant, and it was very was a good summation of what most Leeds fans were thinking at the time, especially when he got sacked, was if they kept Bielsa, they were a chance of going down. Now that if they got rid of Bielsa, they were 100% going down. And I think I'd have to agree. I don't think that Leeds can transition quickly enough to become a stable Premier League team. In post Bielsa, I think it's going to have to take a relegation to really build new foundations and new principles back into that team. And I think it's very cruel by the Leeds board. I think he should have stayed, and I think they should have backed him, because Leeds' system works well against teams below them or teams around them. It doesn't work well against teams that are very good at occupying space, like I said, with Spurs and United and etc. They've got a good run of fixtures coming up, and I feel like that could have been Bielsa's, not saving grace, but chance to be like, no, we're not going down. This is why, and then we'll go on and win 3 out of the next 5 or whatever. They've got a good run against poor teams, and it was a shame that it had to happen after a seemingly unfortunate loss against Spurs. I know it was 4-0, and I know they got battered by Liverpool. I know they conceded 10 goals in 2 games, and they conceded 4 against United. But context is massive. They're 3 the best clubs at beating Leeds. Like, Leeds is such an enigma of a club that they could beat a team that's sitting in 14th place 4-0, and they could lose to a team sitting in 15th place 3-0 because of how they play, and it's very, very specific. Just like when you beat Leeds, you can't really take a lot from it because no one else plays like Leeds play. So that has to go. That has to flip. That has to flip. You need to look at it game by game, in my opinion. And this leaves a gaping hole for Leeds. He was more than a manager. He was more than a manager. And I'm not even a Leeds fan. I can't say that I'm that clued up on Leeds, the culture or the history or anything like that. But you can tell he was more than a manager. He was the closest thing to not a god, but a hero worshipping man that Leeds have had in a long time. And I can feel the heartbreak, because I felt it with Frank Lampard, obviously to a lesser extent, because Lampard was only in the job for 18 months or whatever. But yeah, it's I can feel the pain from Leeds fans. It sucks, I can tell. Yeah, and that leaves Marcelo Bielsa on the market for some teams to go and get. And there's one national side that must get him, and I'll touch on that a bit later. And yeah, and I think you might know what that is if you are clued up on my opinions on this certain manager that's already in charge of this certain national team. We'll touch on that later. And anyway, we'll move on swiftly. Brentford 0, Newcastle 2. Josh Da Silva, that was shocking. That tackle, that was appalling. Yeah, that was very, very dangerous. Brentford in danger. I think Newcastle are safe. Brentford are in big danger of going down. I think they'll stay up but it's going to be tight. Palace against Burnley 1-1. That was a big point for Burnley. Massive point for Burnley, considering that Watford got spanked by Palace. Big point for them. United 0, Watford 0. Big chance for top 4, and they blew it. There's just something intangibly wrong with Manchester United at the moment. I don't know what it is, but there's just something there which doesn't give me confidence in them when they play. But yeah, it's again, you put a blanket over Spurs, Arsenal, West Ham and United for top 4, and I still can't split them. I think I said West Ham not long ago. I'll stick by West Ham, but you can seriously just put a blanket over them and pick one out of the hat, because on their day they're all unbeatable, and off their day they're all very, very beatable. So we'll see how that develops. Brighton 0, Villa 2. Big win for Steven Gerrard. Not much to speak about that. Everton 0, Man City 1. Now. Let's talk about the non-controversial stuff first. Phil Foden, very instinctive finish, very smart finish. Michael Keane, I'm pretty sure it was Michael Keane. What are you doing? Just kick the ball out of play. It can't be that hard. But big win for City. That puts the pressure on Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool now have 2 games in hand and are 9 points behind. So massive. I'm pretty sure they're 9 points behind anyway. Massive stakes for Liverpool now. So yeah, that puts a pressure on them big time. Big win for City. But how Rodri was not complicit or charged with a penalty, as we'll say it like that, why not, is absolutely beyond me, because we speak about this every single week we speak about this. Why can't VAR do their fucking job? Why don't the referees know their own rules? Like, what? I have not seen. Normally on controversial VAR decisions, you see people leaning one way, or like XYZ is why this decision was paid this way, this is why it could have gone the other way. You see a lot of discourse. I have not seen one person on any social media say that wasn't a penalty. It is like, even City supporters are like, yeah, we got away from that one there. It's you need the rub of the green at some stages to win the league. I think City got lucky when they won it against Liverpool in some cases. Obviously, it was 13 millimetres or whatever it was when they won it in the 98-97 point season. There's a lot of luck involved in literally every league win, regardless of the gap. But that one was a big stroke of luck there. And Everton robbed of a big point, because they're in a hole, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can get out of it, because I don't think they can. West Ham 1, Wolves 0. This is the game I was speaking about when I said Wolves I don't think will get top 4 or out of the race anyway. West Ham, big win for them. Thomas Souček popping up with a goal again. Just your real efficient win. Nothing much to speak on that. Big win for West Ham. They needed that, and they're right in the top 4 race at the moment. Now, moving on to a game that I really didn't want to speak about when the fateful moment happened, but the League Cup final. After 90 minutes in extra time, it was 0-0, and then it was 10-11 or 11-10 on penalties. Liverpool beating Chelsea. Now, I could literally do a whole podcast on this game, because so much happened, and it's probably the best 0-0 that I've ever seen. So let's just start. I don't even know where to start. Let's start chronologically. Should we? Or I don't even know where to start, to be honest. Let's just go on how I've done it on my run sheet. Game of millimetres, I've written down here. Game of millimetres. And a game this close, and a game this so closely battled, and a game that was so high tension, and mistakes and little passes and overhit passes or underhit passes or shots that go literally millimetres wide can change the outcome of a game. This was the definition of a game of millimetres. You had Mane missing a pretty much open goal in the first half. You had Mount missing 2 gilt-edged chances, which 9 out of 10 times he'd bury both of them. You had Van Dijk offside by a toenail, like his foot was offside, and that was a controversial decision by itself. Jeez, I can't even speak. You had the Naby Keita non-red card, which I'll speak about. You had Chelsea's 3 offside goals. You had Lukaku's goal, which was given. I'm pretty sure that one was given, but it was ruled out for offside, which that one got me intrigued. That one got me looking at the replay, because I thought that was on. And then you had Kai Havertz missing scoring, but it was offside. You had Marcos Alonso getting a cross for Havertz, saved by Kelleher's foot. You had Kepa nearly saving Kanate's, you had Kelleher nearly saving Werner's, you had so many moments of millimeters, like literal millimeters like put it this way, if Mason Mount hits the ball 3 centimeters on the outside, like 3 centimeters further up of his foot or further back of his foot, it's probably 1-0 Chelsea. If Romelu Lukaku holds his run for 1/100th of a second, it's probably 1-0 Chelsea. If Sadio Mane puts 2 centimeters of height more on that shot, it's 1-0 Liverpool. If Kepa gets across a little bit, or if he times his dive a little bit better, Chelsea have a spot kick to win it. If Kelleher gets across and saves Werner's, times his dive a little bit better, Liverpool win it a lot sooner than what they did. It was literally a game of millimeters, and so many people are blaming XYZ person, blaming Kepa, blaming Mount, blaming Tuchel, blaming whoever. In my opinion, there is no one you can blame from a Chelsea perspective. There is absolutely no one you can blame. They pretty much played the perfect game. They played as perfect of a game as you could against Liverpool. I'm not sure you could have played a better one. And if they did, fucking fair goes to them. But they fought. They scored, like all the outfield players scored their pens. They put the ball in the back of the net 4 times, or 3 times. They hit the post. And then on the Liverpool side of things, they had a goal ruled out. Like I think it was Matip got the header at the back post, but that was a goal. I don't know why that was disallowed. They had Mane's shot like from the double save, and then you have the intangibles, Thiago going out like 3 minutes before kickoff. What if that doesn't happen? Does that give Liverpool the advantage or Chelsea the advantage? Who knows? Obviously, I think it was Harvey Elliott Naby Keita came into the starting 11, who had the shot for Mane, who missed the open goal, and then you had Harvey Elliott, who wasn't even in the squad, came on the bench, came on, scored a penalty. There's just so many sliding doors moments where you can't blame anyone. If Chelsea had come out and got absolutely battered for 90 minutes, then fine, fair enough. You can blame a person or a group of people. Similarly, off the Liverpool side, if Chelsea came out, scored 3, game over by half time, you can blame people from the Liverpool's perspective. It was literally the bounce of a ball. That's all it was. It was the millimeters and bounces of a ball which determined the outcome, and probably deservedly so. Liverpool won. I think you have to look at the key moments of the game. Liverpool had the ball in the back of the net. Probably Chelsea had the ball in the back of the net more times, but Liverpool had the ball in the back of the net in the most fair way. You could say Liverpool should have been down to 10 men. You should say a lot of different things. Chelsea hit the post. A lot of different things. But 2 moments which I want to speak about is the Kepa sub and the Naby Keita red card, or non-decision, I should say. Naby Keita should not have been on the pitch, in my opinion. And this is not an excuse, because I said Liverpool probably deserved to win, and it was so tight that even if Keita got subbed off, I don't really back Chelsea's ability to beat 10 men anyway. But he's gone studs up, he's gone high, he's collected him pretty much in the penis. He's kicked Chalobah in the inner groin. Like, for me, that's black and white for me. And for that to be a Liverpool free kick is a joke. But that for me is black and white. That's a red card. And if that was happening on a Chelsea, if say the roles were reversed and Chalobah kicked Keita and it wasn't given, I'd be counting my wives, seriously, because that for me is as clear of a red card as you can see. But again, one of those sliding doors moments which you can't affect and you can't change, and you can only ponder about what if that was given. And also the Kepa sub, a lot of people are blaming Tuchel, a lot of people are blaming Mendy. I don't know why people are blaming Mendy, but I've seen it. A lot of people are blaming Kepa. Now, you need to look at this from a couple of different perspectives. Kepa's job is not to score a penalty. So you can't blame him for missing, because that's not his job. What you can't blame him for is not saving them. Fine, fair enough. He probably should have saved them, should have saved some, considering he was brought on to save penalties. For people blaming Thomas Tuchel, now, I get it. Mendy had one of the better games I've ever seen him play, and that's a high standard, right? And I know he won an African Cup of Nations on penalties only like a month ago, 2 months ago. But Kepa's record in a shootout is unreal. Like, I can remember him saving us. I remember him saving us against Frankfurt. I remember him saving us in League Cups, against Spurs, against so many people, like so many teams. I remember, like I said, Frankfurt in the Europa League, Spurs in the League Cup, Villa in the League Cup, Southampton in the League Cup. This season, I can remember him saving us so many times. He saved the penalty in the Club World Cup, I'm pretty sure. No, he didn't. I was lying about it. But, like, I back, and adding to that, I don't think I've seen Edouard Mendy save a penalty for Chelsea. So, when you add this, he saved Aguero's chip at the end of the last season. But adding to that, I think it was the right decision. Tuchel obviously thought it was the right decision. If you were to replay that game, I would do that decision. I would make that sub every single time. So would Thomas Tuchel. So would probably Edouard Mendy, and so would probably Kepa. Because it's, again, one of those things, a game of millimetres. If Kepa times his dive better, saves Konate's shot, and I think it was Werner maybe who had the kick after him, scores, Kepa's hailed the hero, and it's a masterclass from Thomas Tuchel, etc. But it's so fine margins, like he's so tight that it's almost beyond the point of debating, because you can debate about whose fault was it, but if like there's so many things, like you can say this, like what if like Kepa comes on with 2 minutes ago? What if Chelsea score in that time? That sub doesn't get spoken about. So there's so many sliding doors moments where it's like you can't really even debate it. But yeah, I think I've covered that in a truncated version. I could really speak about that for ages, but yeah, I think I've talked through all my talking points. That's the first domestic cup for Jurgen Klopp. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it is first domestic cup. Thomas Tuchel obviously still waiting on that domestic cup, but it will come, I have no doubt. Now, speaking of Chelsea, we'll keep on Chelsea and we'll touch on Roman Abramovich. Now, I won't speak about this for too long because I don't actually know what's happening with it. But Roman Abramovich put out a statement, obviously with the whole Russia-Ukraine conflict at the moment. Roman Abramovich is being investigated from my knowledge, so please do not take this as gospel. I'm probably wrong, and I'm gonna hazard a guess and say that I am wrong. But from what I've seen and from what I've read, and I haven't done too much research on it, so I won't speak about it too much because I want to speak about the football. But from what I know, Roman Abramovich could be an enabler in Putin's whole shtick. And if he is, the UK government can basically fuck him over and freeze all his assets and do all that, right? And that's why he put out a statement. That's why he put out a statement saying, that's why today I'm giving trustees of Chelsea Charitable Foundation the stewardship and care of Chelsea FC. That was the statement. Basically what that means is that he's picking up he's basically taking Chelsea and giving it to the trustees and the charitable foundations. So he's still the owner, he still owns the club, he just doesn't have any assets of it at the current moment, which he's very intelligent in what he did. He played 4D chess. He acted quicker than the UK government could, which full respect to him. He basically, by doing this, he avoids Chelsea being pretty much hurt if the UK government decides to sanction Roman Abramovich, etc. Although an interesting point, which I just found out this morning, that charitable foundation and the trustees still have not accepted the stewardship of Chelsea FC. So they better do that, or else we could be fucked. But we'll see how that develops. I don't really want to speak about that too much. Now, before we move on to the other leagues, I spoke about Marcelo Bielsa not long ago. And what I was mentioning was Marcelo Bielsa is now a free agent. The Socceroos should throw the kitchen sink at Marcelo Bielsa. I'm actually gonna get. This could turn into a rant, which I'll try not to make a bit. If Football Australia is serious about being a footballing nation and is serious about developing the game in this country, they give Marcelo Bielsa a blank checkbook and say, write whatever fucking numbers you want on it. We'll literally give you everything. The reason why I say this is that he showed interest in 2019. He wanted to be the manager of the fucking national team in 2019, 3 years ago. And yet we're like, nah, let's give it to Bert Van Marwijk. Okay, whatever. Oh no, that was... No. Let's give it to fucking Graham Arnold. Jesus Christ. That was after Bert. Oh yeah. But he is such a pioneer in literally in football. He's arguably a football pioneer. He developed a philosophy that Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, so many managers have said, this is who I'm modelling my game off. Mauricio Pochettino. These managers have said, this is the guy I'm modelling my game off. He took a struggling lead side, took them up. Make them finish 9th in the Premier League. Turned Calvin Phillips to one of the best defensive midfielders in Europe. He was one of the best players in the Euros. Calvin Phillips. And what he did with the Argentinian national side, what he did with the Chilean national side, what he's done, and what his influence in so many national teams is too good of an opportunity to pass up. Because if we don't act quickly, he will go and we'll miss out. This may be irrational and this may be knee-jerk, but if Australian football was serious, they'd sack Graham Arnold today, they'd get on the phone and be like, we'll give you literally whatever the fuck you want. Because the quality of coach and the quality of manager is night and day. It is seriously night and day. Graham Arnold is a good A-League manager. He can go to like another Asian league and do well, a la Kevin Muscat. Marcelo Bielsa is one of the best managers in Europe and has been for a while. He's aging. He probably doesn't want a tough schedule like a club football would want. And like Jason Irvine said it, they versed Marcelo Bielsa's Chilean side and they played them off the park. I think Jason Irvine said something along the lines of they were the best national team we faced. Something along those lines. He basically gave them such high praise because of that man in charge. And it's like we're going to see the balls of Football Australia in these next coming months. Because in March we've got 2 games to save our qualification hopes. If Graham Arnold does not get us through automatically, he should be gone. In comes Marcelo Bielsa. If Graham Arnold gets us through automatically, he should not manage the World Cup. Marcelo Bielsa should. I would do it today. Obviously, I wouldn't sack Graham Arnold and then get Bielsa. I'd get Bielsa and then sack Arnold because you never know, right? But I would get the all clear from Bielsa. I'd just terminate him. I would get his contract and put it in a shredder. I don't care. Sue me for unjust dismissal. This is one of the best managers in Europe. Like, he will go to a top 5 if he wants to continue managing club football, of course. He will go to a top 5 European league and do well. A club in the top 5 European leagues and do well. If not, he will go to a Mexico. He will go to a like a Belgium maybe. I know like Martinez is favourable there, but you never know. He'll go to another national team side and fucking do really well. This is like, again, I've spoken about sliding doors moments a lot this podcast. This is a sliding doors moment for football in Australia. We missed out on him in 2019. Look at what Gus Hiddink did for the Australian national team. Obviously, like very different in terms of playing style, but the ilk of manager is very, very similar. Very successfully in Europe, very successful on the international stage, and he is very old, very experienced, very cocky, very confident, very. And I spoke about this a couple of podcasts ago. I was like, Graham Arnold does not have that cockiness. He does not have that confidence of, I know how good I am, I know how good this team is, I know how far we're going to go. He doesn't have that. Gus Hiddink had that. Marcelo Bielsa has that. And it will be a travesty if we don't get him. Or if we at least don't ask the question. If we approach him and he says, nah, fuck off, then fine, fair enough. Can't really do a lot about that. But the reason I'm saying this is that he wanted to come in 2019. And we were like, nah, let's get Graham Arnold. It's fucked. Like, it's fucked. It's seriously fucked. I don't know. I don't even know. I never know if they will. I don't think they will. They don't have the balls. They don't have the balls because Graham Arnold is well known and I'll tell you why. Because Graham Arnold is a yes man. Graham Arnold will do exactly what Football Australia wants him to do. He will follow the company line. He will tick all the boxes, no problems. That's why they got rid of Ange. That's why they wanted to get rid of Ange. Because he was trying something. He was being different. Marcelo Bielsa is the definition of different. And yet, this stubbornness to Graham Arnold is really frustrating, and it's really setting this national team back a lot of years. If the Socceroos need to get Marcelo Bielsa, because it's beyond the point of where you can even debate, is he good enough? Or not even is he good enough, but is he the right fit? He is the right fit. Trust me, he's the right fit. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, and I probably might be wrong. I'd hazard a guess and say there's more chance of me being wrong than being right. But if the Socceroos get Marcelo Bielsa, it will be the biggest. It will be the most influential appointment in Australian football history, bigger than Gus. That's my 2 cents. I'm not really sure that was too articulate or coherent, but yeah, it was a bit of a rant. Okay, moving on, and I want to try to speed through all of this because it's been a long fucking podcast. We're touching on 40 minutes already, and I haven't even touched on the other leagues. Serie A, Inter Milan and AC Milan both drew. Napoli beat Lazio 2-1, so that means Napoli are now the top 2 points clear of Inter Milan in third, who have a game in hand. So I think, if I remember right, Napoli are on 57 points, Inter and AC are on 55, and then Inter have a game in hand. I think that's right. Or Napoli and AC Milan are on the same points. Something like that. League 1, PSG won again, so yeah, who really cares? Bundesliga, Bayern beat Frankfurt and Dortmund drew to Augsburg, so that's a big dent in the title race. Bayern now get that little bit more, get that breathing room, which they desperately needed because Dortmund were breathing down their necks. But I think Bayern should have that wrapped up. And in Spain, Barcelona beat both Madrid clubs won pretty convincingly, and Barcelona beat Athletic Club 4-0. That keeps them equal on points with Atletico in fifth with a game in hand. So that's maintaining that they're really gone punch for punch at this stage. In the Champions League, Chelsea beat Lille 2-0. Pretty standard win, pretty comfortable win. Shades of Chelsea from about December, which was not even or October, which was good to see. Villarreal 1, Juventus 1. Big result for Villarreal, and I think they're a smoky to go through in that tie. So we'll see how that second leg goes. Benfica 2, Ajax 2. Game for the football hipsters, that one. Obviously exciting. Ajax are being just unbelievable this season. They've only conceded like 5 goals in the league or something like that, like under 10 goals in the league. It's insane. So yeah, that's going to be a very good second leg. And then Atletico won, Manchester United won. Anthony Elanga is really coming into his own, which is good to see. Which you want to see those young players really announce themselves on the big stage. Moving on to the Europa League, RB Leipzig go through 5-3 on aggregate. So do Barcelona with the same scoreline, and Rangers go through. So the Scottish fans will be happy. The Scots will be very excited with that. And of course, like I said, I want to see a Scottish side do well because I enjoy the atmosphere that they bring around football. Who went into footed? I've gone with, I was struggling, to be honest. So I've been lazy. I've just said Leeds because they shouldn't have sacked Bielsa. Put it that way. Yeah, I was struggling to find one, to be honest. I wasn't struggling to find one that I could say diplomatically. Put it that way, because there was some, but I couldn't say it. So, yeah, I've gone with Leeds sacking Bielsa. Again, just to emphasise my point, it was a boneheaded decision in my opinion. But again, what do I know? I'm just sitting in my study, just talking about it. So I'm no football coach anyway. And then a preview of the week's games. The FA Cup midweek, so no Champions League or European football. There's FA Cup. I know Chelsea play Luton. That's all I know, so apologies. But I know it's relatively easy draws for most of the top 6 sides, so they should all go through. And then the Manchester derby this weekend, which could be a potential banana skin for Man City, because obviously United love to get up for these games, and if they do knock them off, then that's that game, that's that dropping of points that Liverpool need. Liverpool needs City to lose against someone in order to get equal on points with them, and this could be the game, I reckon. Which, how ironic, Manchester United helping Liverpool out. So obviously some classic derby games over the years. This one will be at the Etihad. Obviously you had the 3-2, the Pogba brace and the Chris Smalling goal. So many classics at the Etihad, so hopefully this one can deliver as well. But yes, that's all for this week. I know I zoomed through the second half of this podcast because I wanted to get it wrapped up pretty quickly, so it's not an hour and a half long, and I've just managed to maintain it around the 40-minute mark. So if I spoke about it how I normally would, we'd be here for literally a day. So I tried to keep it a little bit abridged, but hopefully that is okay with everyone. Unless you want like an hour and a half podcast, which I don't know why anyone would want to listen to me talking for an hour and a half straight. But if you do, let me know, and I can quite easily do that because I love talking, especially about football. So yeah, that's all for this week. That's all for this week's podcast. Stay well, stay safe. I hope the week's football treats you well, and I hope everyone remains relatively okay, to put it bluntly, with everything going on in the world. To put it bluntly, it's fucked. And hopefully we speak in a week's time in a lot more peaceful and calm scenario, and a lot more calm situation. However unlikely that might be, let's just pray for the best, eh? So yeah, thank you all very much for listening. Of course, 2 Footed Tackle podcast on all the socials, all the YouTube, all the podcast platforms, everything like that. Yeah, stay well, stay safe. See you guys. Oh, the music's not playing. Here we go. There we go. Stay well, stay safe. See you guys. Bye.